Good morning class 9 students. I welcome you all on this online digital learning platform provided by Jagriti Classes. We were discussing about chapter 4 of chemistry. Okay. So now we'll continue our chapter. This is for class 9th, chapter number 4. In the previous video or in the previous class, we discussed what do you mean by Bohr's model of an atom. So now we are continuing the application of Bohr's model, okay? Before that, a small topic is given in your NCERT textbooks, that is neutrons. So first we'll see what do you understand by neutrons. Basically, neutron is a subatomic particle. In the atom, we have more smaller particles which are smaller than the atom and which are present inside the atom. So the particles which are present inside the atom are called subatomic particles. We have three kinds of subatomic particles, that are protons, neutrons and electrons. We saw in our earlier classes that how protons were discovered and how the electrons were discovered. Goldstein named scientist discovered protons and electrons were discovered by J.J. Thomson. So now we are studying a basic detail or a brief idea what do you mean by neutron. So neutrons are a type of subatomic particles. Okay? Neutron is a type of subatomic particle. The symbol to denote neutron, that is neutrons are denoted by the symbol small n. Wherever you have to show how many neutrons an atom contains, you can simply write the number of neutrons with the symbol small n, because neutrons do not have any type of unit with them. So these are designated with the symbol small m, and these are the subatomic particles. Next is what? They are neutral. Neutral here signifies they do not contain any kind of charge. They are neither positive nor negative. They do not have any kind of charge on them. They are neutral. Whereas comparing to the protons, protons were positively charged. And comparing to the electrons, electrons are negatively charged. But here what do we have as neutrons? They are neutral. Neutral means they do not contain any kind of charge on them. Any kind of charge. Okay? So this is what you mean by neutrons. Then the next point of study would be they have a mass equal to mass of proton. Their mass is equal to the mass of protons. And we have already discussed the value also, okay, in the previous classes. So mass of neutrons is equal to the mass of proton. The next point what we have, combinedly the neutrons along with the protons, that is neutrons and protons are called with a single common name. Whenever you want to speak neutrons plus protons or neutrons along with protons, you call them nucleons. So this is a very important term. The question can be asked, what do you mean by nucleons? So nucleons are the combination of neutrons and protons. When speaking these both together, we call them as nucleons. Then the next is mass of any atom. Mass of any atom is equal to the mass of nucleons present in them. So mass of any atom is equal to the mass of nucleons. That is how many nucleons we have in an atom decides the mass of that particular atom. And these neutrons were discovered in 1932 by James Chadwick. So James Chadwick discovered neutrons in 1932. This is a brief account of the neutrons, or whatever knowledge at this level you should be having about neutrons, that these are subatomic particles. These are neutral, that is they do not carry any kind of charge. Then they have a mass equal to mass of proton. Next is what? Neutrons and protons are combinedly known as nucleons, and the mass of any atom is based on the number of or on the mass of these nucleons. Then you have that neutrons were discovered in 1932 by James Chadwick. Then a question may come that except hydrogen, okay, or it may be asked like which atom does not contain any neutrons? So the example or the answer would be hydrogen. So I'll write here an important point that except hydrogen, every atom or all atom contains neutrons. Except hydrogen, all atoms contain neutrons in them. Contain neutrons. Okay? So this you have to remember that hydrogen does not contain any kind of neutrons. This will be some contradiction fact, because when we'll study further, when we'll study about isotopes and isobars, there you'll see that hydrogen has 3 isotopes, and in 3 the 2 isotopes contain neutrons. Okay, but for this time or for the fact of convenience, you have to remember that hydrogen does not contain any neutrons in it. So this is what we dealt with the topic of neutrons. Now we are starting a very important topic, which is distribution of electrons in various shells. Okay, so now we are going to study the distribution of electrons in the various shells. This is a very important topic. Many of the students remain confused even after completing the whole syllabus in various shells or in various energy levels. You all know. If you don't know, then you can refer to the previous video. You should have an idea before starting this topic about Bohr's model of an atom. We'll just have a quick recap. Niels Bohr proposed a structural model of an atom according to which the atom has a central located positively charged center, which is called nucleus. And then what you have is, you have different energy states or different energy levels around this nucleus. And Bohr named these. The first shell, which is just near to the nucleus, he called it to be the K shell. And similarly, the other shells or the next shells were called L shell, M shell, and at the last you have your N shell. It's not the fact that only these 4 shells are present in an atom. When you study in your higher classes, you'll know that many more shells can be present in an atom, which is based on the number of electrons present in them. Agar kisi atom mein we have more number of electrons, then of course you'll need more shells, okay, to arrange the electrons. So here, but for the sake of now, you have to remember that Bohr proposed these 4 shells, and the orbital number of first shell, which is denoted by small n. For the K shell, this is the first shell. So the value of n or the orbital number of K is n equals to 1. Similarly, talking about the next shells, for L, the value is n equals to 2. This value only signifies that L is the second shell when starting from the nucleus. If you are standing on this nucleus and you are moving outwards, you are going outside the atom, then what you will see, the first shell which you will encounter will be your K shell. Okay? So this has a level 1 or the orbital number 1. Similarly, when you will step more forward, then you will find the second shell, which is your L shell. For M shell, the value of n is 3, and for the last shell here, that is N shell, the value of n should be 4. So this is what the Bohr's model of an atom. Now what we are studying the distribution of electron. We know that atom contains a nucleus, and atom contains 4 shells, that is K element shells. Now you have to fill the electrons in these shells, because you know we have 3 subatomic particles, that is electrons, protons and neutrons. These 3 subatomic particles, in these 3 particles, the protons and neutrons are present inside the nucleus. Okay, the location of protons and neutrons is confined inside the nucleus. That is, inside the nucleus you will have protons and you will have neutrons. But where does this electron reside then? If not inside the nucleus, these electrons or many electrons are present in definite locations. So these electrons are present in these shells. Okay? But now we have to see the distribution. How many electrons can come in a particular shell? Like, is this correct? So after studying these rules, you will say this arrangement which I drew just now, it is totally incorrect. So we have to study the distribution of electrons in various shells. For this, the scheme which we use is called, this distribution of electrons in various shells is based on Bohr-Bury scheme. This is based on Bohr-Bury scheme. Please do not get confused. In the last we studied Bohr's model of atom, which was this. This is what Bohr's model means, okay? And now we are discussing Bohr-Bury scheme. This scheme was proposed in order to tell you how you can arrange different electrons or many electrons in an atom. And Bohr and Bury proposed certain rules for arrangement. So now we'll see the rules one by one. The first rule which was proposed by Bohr-Bury scheme was that the maximum number of electrons, they said or they stated that the maximum number of electrons in any shell, in a particular shell, instead of shell you can write orbit also, or you can designate them by saying energy levels. So the maximum number of electrons in a particular shell is given by a formula, and that formula is 2n square. Formula which is 2n square, okay? So this is an important formula, and this is the first rule of Bohr-Bury scheme. That is the maximum number. Mark my words, the term maximum is very important here, okay? You will get to know its importance when we will discuss all the remaining rules. So the maximum number of electrons in a particular shell, or you can write in a particular energy level, it is given by the formula 2n square. And here n equals to orbital number, or you can simply say orbit number. For example, if we try to solve the formula for K shell, you know for K shell value of n is 1. That is K shell is our first shell. So for K shell n equals to 1. Putting n equals to 1 in the formula, what do we get? 2n square will become, put n equals to 1, 2 into 1 square, which will give 2. So this 2 means a maximum of 2 electrons can be arranged in your K shell, okay? So this arrangement which I drew many electrons 4 to 5 in the K shell is completely incorrect, because this Bohr-Bury scheme says that according to the given formula 2n square, if you keep n equals to 1 for your K shell, then you will get a maximum number of 2 electrons. So this I told you that maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in any particular shell is given by the formula 2n square. Let's solve it out for remaining shells. For the L shell, you know n is equals to 2, okay, because L is our second shell. So here n equals to 2. Now solving the formula, instead of n put the value 2. What we get is, we get 2 multiplied by 2 square. In this n I am writing the value 2, and this is n square here, so I am squaring the terms. What you get, 2 square is 4. 2 into 2 is 4, and 4 into 2 will give you 8. So the maximum number of electrons which can be accommodated in your L shell will be 8 electrons. Now I think this topic is quite clear, and you can solve it out for the remaining shell. Okay, I'll do it here. Your next shell is M shell. For M shell, the n value is equal to 3. That is, M shell is your third shell. And on solving 2n square, which will give you 2 into 3 square, what do you get? 3 square is 9, and 9 into 2 is 18. So maximum 18 electrons will be accommodated in your M shell. And for the last shell, N shell, can you solve it out? If you have understood the topic, please pause the video here and you may solve it out. I am solving it out, but you can check your answers, okay? Let's say for N shell, the N value is 4 here. So on putting N equals to 4 in the formula, 2n square, where 2 into 4 square is 16, and 16 into 2 is 32. This is not any minus sign here, okay? So we get a maximum of 32 electrons, or 32 electrons can be accommodated in your N shell. So this was our first rule of the Bohr-Bury scheme. So I think this rule is quite clear. According to this rule, the maximum number of electrons which can come in K shell is 2. The maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in your L shell will be 8. And likewise, the arrangement of electron in M and L shell will be 18 and 32. Now we are discussing our second rule of this Bohr-Bury scheme. The second rule states that if any shell is the outermost shell of the atom, then the maximum number of electrons that is present in the outermost shell would be 8. Okay? So now we are I am writing the statement of second rule. Not maximum, I'll write the total number of electrons. Maximum word was included in your first rule. Now we are doing the total number of electrons in any of the outermost shell should be equal to 8 always. Okay, but remember, this rule is not valid. It is not valid for K shell. Only the first rule was valid for K shell. And now we'll discuss the second and third rule. Both rules will not be valid for K shell. That is, the total number of electrons in K shell would be always 2. Okay, no need to remember it. And the total number of electrons except K shell in any of the shell will be equal to 8 if this shell is the outermost shell. Now giving you an example, I think many of you get confused here. For example, if I have any sort of atom, let's suppose this is the nucleus of any atom, then we have the first shell, that is K shell, then comes the L shell, and then comes the M shell. Okay, this is K, L and M shell. According to our rule, the maximum number of electrons which can be accommodated in K shell is 2 electrons. So I draw 2 electrons in the K shell. You can also draw electrons with the help of dots. You can put dots instead of electrons. So these 2 electrons are present in the K shell. Then in L shell, how many electrons can come? 8 electrons. So let's draw 8 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have 5, 6, 7 and 8. So these are the 8 electrons which are present in L shell. Now let's say this is our M shell, as you all know, okay? This is the K shell, this is L shell, and the third shell is the M shell. Now in M shell, how many maximum number of electrons can come? I am asking you in M shell, maximum number of electrons, and maximum number of electrons we discussed in rule 1. So according to this formula, the maximum number of electrons present in M shell is 18. But according to the second rule which comes into introduction, the total number of electrons in the outermost shell should be 8. We know that M shell may a total of 18 electrons can come. M shell has the capacity to accommodate 18 electrons. But because when the shell behaves as the outermost shell, only 8 electrons can come in it. So in this case, only 8 electrons will come in this M shell. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we have 2 more electrons. So this is the rule, this is the second rule. M shell में according to the first rule 18 electrons आ सकते थे. But because अगर M shell यहाँ पे outermost shell की तरह behave कर रही है, and any outermost shell except the K shell, any outermost shell can only contain 8 electrons. So in this case, this M shell will not contain 18 electrons. Therefore, it would contain only 8 electrons in it. Okay? So this is the explanation of second rule. Now we have our third and last rule. The third rule states, or else I'll write it first, that is, we have done the maximum number of electrons, then we did the total number of electrons. Now the third rule is, if any shell shell means I am again repeating orbit or your energy levels, okay? If any shell contains 8 electrons, then no further electrons are filled in that shell, and a new shell or new orbit is formed. So this is our third rule of the scheme. That is, if any shell or any orbit contains 8 electrons, if you have filled your orbit with 8 electrons, then you will not put more electrons in it. You have to draw a new shell, okay? For example, if I say, let's draw, this rule we'll discuss with the examples, okay? We have the nucleus here. This rule is also not valid for K shell. Only the first rule is valid for K shell, because whenever you are taking the case of K shell, you will always fill 2 electrons in the shell, not 8, not equals to anything. For K shell, always 2 electrons can be accommodated, and both these second and third rules are only applicable for the remaining shells. So you have a nucleus here in the center, then you have K shell, then you have L shell. K shell can accommodate, now I'll represent the electrons with dots. So K shell can accommodate a maximum of 2 electrons in any case. Now next is what you have, 8 electrons which are already present in the L shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So these 8 electrons are already present. But in the previous section we discussed in the first rule that maximum number of electrons according to the formula 2n square should be 18. But here according to the third rule, अगर किसी भी एक shell में you fill 8 electrons, you get 8 electrons. चाहे इस shell की capacity है to accommodate 18 electrons, but you cannot fill more than 8 in this shell. After, if any shell already contains 8 electrons and you have to fill more electrons, then you will need to draw another new shell or the next shell and draw the remaining electrons, whatever it is, whatever the number of electrons in a new shell. So this is the third rule. Now we'll discuss the examples and I hope you'll get clear with it. So the first example comes, it is called draw the electronic configuration or electronic distribution of hydrogen. Starting with the simplest, hydrogen, the atomic number of hydrogen is 1, okay? Hydrogen has the atomic number of 1. An atomic number means number of protons, which in turn is equal to number of electrons. So this in brackets I am writing atomic number. Atomic number is the number of protons present in any atom, and these number of protons are generally equal to the number of electrons. And for drawing the structure, you have to know the number of electrons. Okay, we require only the number of electrons to draw our structure. So atomic number is 1, that means number of protons in hydrogen is 1 and number of electrons in hydrogen is also 1. So the structure would be quite simple, that is, you will draw a nucleus in the center and then you will draw your first shell, that is your K shell. Now drawing electrons, that is number of electrons are 1. So you just put 1 dot which represents a single electron, and this is your K shell. If you have to write its configuration, then what you will write? For hydrogen you will have K1. This would be the simple configuration. Now coming on to the next, the second, that is helium. Helium has an atomic number equals to 2. 2 means it has 2 electrons. Okay, so while drawing the structure, first you draw the nucleus, then you draw the first shell, and in the first shell, how many electrons you have to arrange? 2 electrons. So let's arrange these 2 electrons in the shell. This is what you will get. Okay, this would be the structure of helium. That is, the configuration would be K2. That's it. Now coming to the next, that is our third example. That would be lithium. The symbol of lithium is capital L and small I, Li. And its atomic number is 3. That is, you have to draw 3 electrons. Now comes some difficulty. If you have certain sort of confusion, it will be solved. For drawing the structure, the first thing is draw the nucleus. Then draw the first shell. In the first shell, how many electrons can come? Yes, good, 2 electrons. So we draw 2 electrons in our first shell. Here we have a total of 3 electrons. 3 may say 2 we have drawn here. So we are remaining with a 1 electron. And as we said in the first rule that in any case, K shell can only have 2 electrons in it. So after drawing 2 electrons, I cannot fit the remaining 1 electron inside this K shell. So I need to draw a new shell here. So let's draw a new shell, which would be our L shell. And 3 electrons, may say 2 electrons we have in the K shell. The remaining 1 electron will be occupied in the L shell. So this is as simple. Now we'll discuss the next example, that is the 4th, boron. Boron has an atomic number 4, so it would be simple for this. What would be the configuration? In the K shell you have 2 electrons and in the L shell you have 1 electrons. And you can simply write it as 2, 1. Okay? Now for boron, I am not drawing the structure now. We have to arrange 4 electrons. The first 2 electrons will come in your K shell. Then after arranging 4 with 4 you are left with now only 2 electrons. So the remaining 2 will come in your L shell. If I make one more dot here, then it would be the structure for boron. Similarly, if you talk about it, let's say now I am not doing the middle ones, that is beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen. I am not, okay. This will not be boron, this will be beryllium. Boron has an atomic number of 5 and the configuration would be 2 and 3. Okay, this would be for boron. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron. Then you have carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. So let's discuss neon. Neon has a symbol Ne and the atomic number of neon is 10. That is, now you have to arrange 10 electrons. How would you do so? You will arrange 2 electrons in your K shell and the remaining 8 electrons in the L shell. Now next what you have is sodium. Sodium is Na with an atomic number of 11. Now for arranging the electrons in sodium, what you do is, you arrange the first 2 electrons in your K shell, 8 electrons in the L shell, because 8 se zyada kisi bhi shell mein we cannot fill electrons. 2 plus 8 gives you 10. But you have a total of 11 electrons, which means 1 electron is still remaining with you. So the 1 electron, the remaining electron will go in the next shell, that is you will have the configuration 2, 8, 1. So these are all the examples you are given in your books with 18 examples, first 18 elements. Now let's discuss of argon. Argon, potassium and calcium. Okay, I am just writing the electronic configuration. For 18, 2 electrons come in K shell, 8 electrons come in L shell and the remaining 8 comes in the M shell. So 8 plus 8, 16 and 17, 18. This is the arrangement in argon. Now what you will do for potassium? For 18 electrons the arrangement would be 2, 8 and 8. But we have one extra electron, that is the 19th electron. So you will not include 19th electron in your M shell. कि M shell में 2n square formula से we get 18 electrons आ सकते हैं, नहीं, because we discussed in the second rule ऐसा possible नहीं है. Then you will put the remaining electron in the newest shell, that is in the last n shell. For 20 also the case would be 2, 8, 8 and 2. Okay, so mark these electronic configuration, try to do their structures, and in the next class we will discuss valency. I hope these structures are well clear to you, plus please practice these structures. These are already given in your books, and in the next class we will discuss valency, then we will discuss atomic number, mass number. These are very small topics, and then I think the last are isotopes and isobars. So most probably we will finish this chapter also in our next class, and if you have any sort of doubt, you are welcome anytime to ask it. Thank you for joining the class.